An abduction in plain sight.
Laporan dakwaan seorang aktivis pelarian Myanmar dan keluarganya diculik pada
Reveals the dark reality of life for many refugees in Malaysia.
The people are still not safe here.
An entire family disappeared without a trace.
We are talking about she's not missing, she was abducted, she was kidnapped.
DVB investigates how this happened and who could be behind this shocking crime.
Who financed this? Who implemented this? Who are the accomplices?
Exposing a world of secrecy and fear.
Pissyရောက်ပါပြီတဲ့နော်ပစ္စည်းတွေရောက်ပါပြီရှင့်ဒါဒီနေ့လှူမဲ့ပစ္စည်းတွေပါဒီနေ့ Ramadan စပြီးတော့ Ramadan အဝင်မှာလှူမဲ့ပစ္စည်းတွေဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒီမိသားစု250စာကိုလှူမဲ့ပစ္စည်းတွေဖြစ်ပါတယ် Hello ဒီမှာကျမမမပဲနဲ့မောနေတာကျမမမပဲနဲ့မောနေတာဒီမှာ
Thuzar Maung was a Burmese refugee living in Kuala Lumpur. After arriving in Malaysia, she dedicated her life to helping other refugees and migrants living there.
Mane nai mathai nai lo Myanmarနိုင်ငံသားတွေကိုကူညီခြင်းလို့ကိုဟာကိုပိုက်ဆံကိုစိုက်ထုတ်ကိုပိုက်ဆံကိုရုံးဖွင့်
In 2017, she founded an organisation called the Myanmar Muslim Refugee Community, supporting undocumented refugees living in Malaysia.
Communities are ယုံလေးသိလားဘလို့ယုံလေးကိုနဲ့တူရာစုကိုနဲ့စကားပြောနိုင်တဲ့လူတွေအကုန်စုကိုလိုလူမျိုးတွေစုကိုလိုပဲ Burmese speaker တွေစုကိုလိုလူမျိုးတွေစုတဘောပေါက်လားငါလဲ refugee ပဲအဲ့ဒီညီလာတယ်စရင်ကောင်းတယ်လူတစ်ဖက်တော့သူဘလို့ကူညီရမလဲဘလို့ပေးကမ်းရမလဲသူ့ပတ်ဝန်းကျင်မှာရှိနေတဲ့လူတွေသူကမျက်နှာအညှိုးမခံဘူး
Whatever she want to say, she won't hesitate. Then she will like whatever she feel. And if she think this is right, she won't care. So she's not afraid to speak it out.
But speaking out began to draw negative attention.
She's kind, she's a very generous woman. But in the other hand, she's very outspoken, strong woman. She speaks directly, so like some people hate her.
I remember to a Yamasi phone call there. Yamane Pokman Lima, a low jump yore, to a Mazashi Mare, Jama you can cycle yore, I love your Poncha, and I love your.
At 4:30 p.m, a car entered the gated community where Thuzar Maung lived with her family. Thuzar was at home with her husband, Sultan Tin Win, known as Ko Saw. Her children were expected home shortly. Around 90 minutes later, Thuzar was on the phone with a friend when she heard someone enter her house. The friend alerted Thuzar's colleagues, who rushed to the house, but they were too late. With no response from the house or the family's phones, Thuzar Maung's friends tried to work out what had happened.
CCTV
At 7:09 p.m, CCTV footage shows a vehicle leaving the compound. This was the same car that had arrived 3 hours earlier. They had told the guards they were police. "58 seconds later, the family's 2 cars approached the same security gate, driven by unknown men. One was captured wearing a mask and black gloves. Thuzar Maung, her husband, sons and daughter were never seen again. As word spread, more of Thuzar's colleagues and friends came together to work out what to do next.
At first we think it's police detain her. We don't know why. So we trying to find out which station she was taken by, but we can't find where she was. What we get an answer from police is that, no, we didn't detain her. We don't know about her.
Then they learnt some shocking news. The so-called police car that had entered the compound had fake license plates.
So we go to the police station and then we give the number plates. The police will check for us. This is not police car. They pretended with police. This is fake registered. So this is a well-planned abduction case.
Realising the gravity of the situation, Thuzar's friends filed a police report. They began to consider what might have happened.
This could be a cross-border abduction because they organize this very well and they do it very professionally done, and this case is well planned and they even have a glove and cover the face. What if the Burmese military cross border and come to the Malaysia and get her brought back to the Myanmar?
But who was this family, and could they really have been a target of the Burmese military? We wanted to find out. I'm Ali Fowle, a journalist who has worked on Burma, also known as Myanmar, for more than 15 years. DVB asked me to investigate. Thuzar Maung fled to Malaysia with her oldest son in 2015 to seek asylum. She had left Burma to escape escalating violence and persecution against Muslims. In Malaysia, she quickly became well established, registering as a refugee and working as a translator for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCR. She soon brought her other 2 children to join her and founded her own organisation, helping asylum seekers register as refugees.
The
MMRC provided community cards, which support undocumented refugees while they wait for UNHCR approval. A-Lang is the president of a similar organisation, providing community cards for Burmese asylum seekers. He says there are at least 15 other organisations like this in Malaysia. A-Lang says it can take months or even years to receive a UNHCR card after applying. In the meantime, people are vulnerable to arrest, exploitation, and legal trouble.
Malaysia နိုင်ငံမှာအထောက်အထားမရှိတော့ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကြိုက်တာလုပ်ကြတယ်။ဘာဖြစ်လဲဆိုအနိုင်ကျင့်ပြီးတော့သူတို့ရလိုက်တဲ့အခွင့်အရေးတွေခေါင်းပုံဖြတ်တဲ့အနေအထားမျိုးပေါ့။လာခဲ့ကျမတို့လိုက်ပြီးအမှုဖွင့်ပေးပြီ
Most refugees are wary of authorities and try to keep a low profile, but Thuzar Maung made it her mission to engage with people in power.
She well connected with the Malaysia politician. She can make it happen when she wants something.
After a coup in February 2021 returned Myanmar to brutal military rule, Thuzar Maung became more influential online, with over 90,000 followers on Facebook.
အားလုံးမြန်မာပြည်သူပြည်သားအားလုံးကဒီစစ်ဆိုးရကိုဘာဖြစ်လဲဆိုကြာဆုံးတဲ့အထိကျမတို့ကပွဲသိမ်းတိုက်ပွဲမှာပါဝင်ပြီးဝင်တွဲကြပါလို့ကျမတို့ဘက်ကဆန္ဒပြုပါတယ်နော်ကဲမင်္ဂလာပါရှင့်
She used the social media to reach out to the people. She's very influenced to a lot of people. Like she can make it like people interested her. She can bring the audience toward her.
I think Thuzar was an articulate advocate who spoke out and was organizing migrant workers as well. In doing so was a threat to the junta.
Debbie Stoddard is a human rights advocate from Malaysia, specialising in Burma. She believes Thuzar Maung's influence in Malaysia could have made her a target.
I met Thuzar Maung several years ago. She was a pleasant person. She was keen to improve her abilities to communicate and to do advocacy.
As Thuzar's influence grew, so did her involvement in politics. She founded a new organisation called the Myanmar Migrant Workers Committee, working with Burma's government in exile.
မြန်မာရွှေ့ပြောင်းလုပ်သားများကော်မတီဆိုတာသိလားဒီ NUG အစိုးရအလုပ်သမားဝန်ကြီးဌာနနဲ့အလုပ်လုပ်တာမှန်ပေမဲ့
The NUG, or National Unity Government, is formed by elected lawmakers from Burma's ousted parliament. Thuzar Maung helped them to support and monitor Burmese workers in Malaysia.
She was at the forefront helping out with the various work that we were attempting to do at that time in Malaysia.
Mo is the NUG Deputy Minister for Human Rights. He says Thuzar Maung's work for NUG was well known in Malaysia.
She was one of the many active leaders that we have across different countries in community organizing, in fundraising, organizing event, and both all online and offline. And this definitely add more risk on her existing profile.
So could Thuzar's connection with the NUG have been a factor in her disappearance?
NUG ministers have to be very discreet about their movements because they know that they and their families are a target. The military from Burma has a track record of organizing these things.
ကုလသမဂ္ဂဆိုင်ရာမြန်မာအသံအမတ်ကြီးဦးကျော်မိုးထွန်းကိုလှုပ်ကြံဖို့ကြံစည်မှုနဲ့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံသား2ဦးကိုဖမ်းဆီးလိုက်တဲ့အကြောင်း American ပြည်အောင်စုစုံစမ်းစစ်ဆေးရေးဗျူရို FBI က August 6 ရက်နေ့မှာထုတ်ပြန်လိုက်ပါတယ်
In 2021, 2 Burmese men living in the US were arrested for a planned attack on Burma's ambassador to the United Nations, who had rejected military rule and joined the NUG. Although the junta deny any responsibility, the men, who have both been convicted, allegedly have military connections and were paid by a known arms dealer for the Burmese military.
If they are willing to do that in the US, then trying to do something like this in a country like Malaysia seems to be like low-hanging fruit.
But Thuzar Maung was not an NUG staff member, and of the many Burmese activists and political figures that have risen to prominence since the coup, she was still relatively low profile. So why would she be the target of such a high-risk international operation?
ငါပြောမယ်မင်းနဲ့ငါနဲ့စဉ်းစားကြည့်လိုက်ဟဲ့ဒီຫນွေဥဒေါ်လာရေးမှာမင်းတို့တန်ယုံကဘောမတွေကိုဘောမပါတန်ယုံမှာလို့ငါပါဇက်ကနာမည်တက်ပြီးဆဲရဲတာသူစားမောင်တစ်ယောက်ပဲရှိတယ်ရှင်းလား
Thuzar had become notorious online for insulting those connected to the military regime, especially from the Myanmar embassy in Kuala Lumpur. She was relentless in her criticism and not afraid to speak out about the most powerful figures in the military.
All it needs is for someone high up enough in the junta to decide they don't like Thuzar, she's a threat, and they want to get rid of her. And that's their logic.
But despite much suspicion, there was no solid evidence that the Myanmar military was behind the abduction. And a few days after they disappeared, other strange clues started to emerge. Just 2 weeks after the family's disappearance, red paint was splashed on the door of the MMRC office.
အဲ့ဒီဖြစ်မလဲဆိုတော့ညီမတို့ရုံကိုစိမ့်နေလာပတ်တယ် message တက်ထားတယ်တဲ့ခေါင်းစိုးဆွတ်ထားတယ်တဲ့အဲ့လိုအရက်ချစ်ချစ်နဲ့ပဲပေါ့နော်စိမ့်နေလာပတ်တယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ညီမတို့ဒီမလေးရှားနိုင်ငံမှာထုံးစံချီတာကဒီအမကအကျွေးယူထားတယ်တရုတ်စီယာပေါ့နော်တရုတ်တွေစီယာအဲ့လိုအကျွေးယူထားတယ်ဆိုရင်အကျွေးမပေးနိုင်ဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပထမတစ်ချိန်ရုံအဲ့လိုအိမ်နေပေါ့နော်စိမ့်နေလာပတ်ချင်းပတ်မယ်
Thuzar's colleagues insist she had not taken out any loans.
အမအဲ့လိုတရုတ်တွေစီကအဆက်ဆက်မရှိဘူးဆိုတာညီမတို့သိတယ်လေဒါဟာညီမတို့ထင်တယ်လောက်တော့တစ်ခုခုကိုလွှဲပြောင်းခြင်းလို့အမှုကိုပဲစောင်းသွားခြင်းလို့လာလောက်တာလားမတို့ဖန်သွားတဲ့လူတွေကပေါ့နော်
As speculation continued, for 2 weeks, the Malaysian police said nothing about the case. Then on the 17th of July, the police finally announced they had opened an investigation, but not into kidnapping.
Tambahnya, setakat ini kes siasatan dibuka mengikut kertas inkuari polis KEP orang hilang.
We are talking about she not missing, she was abducted, she was kidnapped.
And online, people seem to have other ideas. After the family's disappearance, rumours started to appear on social media. Some accused her of working for the military. Others say she was arrested by the Malaysian police for fraud.
And there's a lot of rumours about it. Yeah, then the people talk about she took a lot of money and then she ran away and then she bought a big house in some other country.
သူကဘန်3ခုကိုဘန်2ခုဘန်က2ခုကင်ထားတယ်ဘန်အကောင့်2ခုကိုဖွင့်ထားတယ်အဲ့ဒီဘန်အကောင့်တွေကိုရောက်လာတဲ့ငွေကြီးတွေက3ဆ4ဆလို့နော်30ရာခိုင်နှုန်း30ရာခိုင်နှုန်း40ရာခိုင်နှုန်းတော်လိုင်းအတွက်သွားတယ်လို့ပြောတယ်
ဒီအမျိုးသမီးကမလေးရှားနိုင်ငံမှာရှိတဲ့မြန်မာရွှေပြောင်းအလုပ်သမားတွေရဲ့ငွေကြေးကြောင့်ငွေကြေးကိုယူပြီးတော့အခြားသောတနေရာကိုသူကထွက်ပြေးတယ်လို့လည်းတချို့ကဒီမလေးမှာရှိတဲ့မြန်မာအတိုင်းဝိုင်းကလည်းအဲ့လိုယူဆချက်တွေရှိပါတယ်
The most persistent theory was that she had stolen money from the NUG to start a new life. DVB put these accusations to the NUG.
I have no knowledge that she has run away with the resource or money from NUG, and I don't think it's true.
Ong Jo Mo says the only money Thuzar Maung had access to was small amounts from fundraising.
I don't think NUG has assigned her to be managing any financial assets or financial resources. They raise the fund and they donate to NUG those things. To live in a hidden way, invisible way, I think will require much more fiscal asset or financial asset that we are talking about.
Unseen video acquired by DVB shows that when the police and Thuzar's colleagues entered the apartment, they found the family's belongings untouched.
သူ့မျိုးသားဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းဘန်ဟိုစားသူလှုပ်ထားတဲ့ဘန်ကတ်တွေရှိသေးရဲ့လေပတ်စံအိတ်တွေကျန်နေခဲ့တယ်လေပတ်စံတွေကျန်နေခဲ့သေးရဲ့လေပစ္စည်းတွေကျန်ခဲ့တယ်ကွာခလေးဝတ်စားတွေကျန်ခဲ့တယ်သူတို့ဝတ်စားတွေကျန်ခဲ့တယ်လက်ဝတ်လက်စားတွေ
Jewellery and cash lying around the house ruled out a robbery and suggested they had not planned a departure.
အိမ်ရှိပြီးလက်သားတဲ့လူတယောက်ကအိမ်မှာချွေတို့ချွေစားတွေပစ္စည်းတွေကျန်ခဲ့ပါမလားဆိုင်ကယ်တွေရောကျန်ခဲ့ပါမလားတကယ်လို့သူတို့ဒါလစ်ပြေလာတယ်ဆိုဒီချွေတွေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းသူတို့ယူသွားမှာပဲလေ
Friends say Thuzar Maung had been making plans for herself and her children's future.
And I know her personality and I know what is happening. Before the day she was talking about buying the car and renting the house, and they are UNHCR card holder. They cannot just run away. How can they run away without passport, without visa? Why would they do that?
She was even owed money.
So she got some jewelry, she pawned it, and she haven't take the money yet. 40,000 ringgit Malaysia, she haven't take yet.
So where had these rumours come from?
မာကအလိုအကြီးတွေဝတ်တာသူကဝါဒနာပါတယ်ချွေဝတ်လိုက်လဲအကြီးဝေးရမှာကြောက်ဝတ်လိုက်လဲအကြီးဝေးရမှာဆိုတော့တချို့ကြတော့ဒီမိမကြီးကပတ်စံလေးအရင်ညတာပေါ့ဘယ်ကနေပတ်စံလေးရရလဲပေါ့ဒါအလုပ်သမားတွေရှာနေခေါင်းမုံဖြတ်ထားတယ်ပေါ့မှန်တော့ဒါအလို fancy ရများတယ်တချို့ကြတော့လဲဒါအလူငွေတွေကနေပဲPDF ကိုလူမအလူငွေတွေကနေပဲလှုပ်ဝေးကြတယ်ပေါ့ဒါလေးထူးခြားသွားလဲဆိုတော့အမလူလိမ္မာကြီးလိုပဲနာမည်ထွက်လာတာပေါ့
It seems that Thuzar had become a controversial figure, and an increasing number of her online followers did not seem to trust her.
ခိုးတာရက်ပါလိမ့်နာရက်ပါငါဘာခိုးထားလဲငါအရင်ပြောလေကွာငါတို့မှာ criminal record တစ်ခုမှမရှိဘူးမင်းပြောသလိုလိန်စားခဲ့တယ်ဆိုတာထောက်ထားရှင်းငါရုံလာရှင်းလေကွာမင်းတို့ယောက်ျားတွေမို့လား
Thuzar had begun to lash out at anyone who criticised her.
ဆိုတဲ့တောင်းစားရဲ့အာဆဲပြီဟုတ်ပြီနော်တကယ်ပြောတာငါမဆဲချင်ဘူးဒါပေမဲ့မင်းကငါ့ကိုအဆဲတောင်းတော့ငါဆဲပြီဟုတ်လား
And she was becoming increasingly confrontational.
ရှင်းလေလားငါတို့ရှင်းအောင် face to face အဲ့ချိန်ကြရင်ငါပြောမယ်မင်းတို့ရှင်းပြောရင် account to account လိန်နဲ့သိလားဟိုလာပြီးတော့ဒီနေရာမှာ live လုပ်နေချိန်လောက်တော့လာမဟောင်းနဲ့
Thuzar Maung saw these accusations as evidence the military was out to get her.
မင်းတို့စကားစားရဲ့ strategy သိလားတက်ရှိုသွေးခွဲတက်ရှိုသွေးခွဲအဲ့လိုလူဂုံတိတ်ခါကြောင်ပြောမယ်ဟိုလိုပြည့်အောင်ပြောမယ်ဒီလိုပြည့်အောင်ပြောမယ်
Thuzar believed she was on the military's watch list. She had told friends there was a warrant out for her arrest in Burma. She believed she was a target.
ငါတို့အဓိကမင်းတို့စကားစားမလေးရှားမှာကြောက်တာသူစားမောင်ပဲကြောက်တာကျန်တဲ့ဘယ်ကောင်မှမကြောက်ဘူးရှင်းလား
In Malaysia, police were moving slowly with the case. A month after the family disappeared, they finally put out a public appeal for information. But after that, silence.
As a Malaysian, what is particularly horrifying is seeming complacence of the police, but the reality is that a woman, an activist, and her entire family were taken away, never to be seen again, in broad daylight. And we still don't have any answers.
The perceived lack of action by police has raised serious questions.
Because the police don't know how to investigate this case, or is it because the police don't think it merits the resources required because these are refugees and migrants?
For Thuzar's friends and colleagues left behind, they are terrified they could be next.
Thuzar's
colleagues are preparing to be resettled in a third country.
Thuzar Maung UN Canada
UNHCR can't comment on individual cases, but they seem to be taking the case seriously and have now fast-tracked the resettlement of Thuzar's colleagues.
Malaysia
This adoption case has proved that no one is still safe in Malaysia from Myanmar military. So
James Tang is the chairman of the Alliance of Chin Refugees in Kuala Lumpur. He says that police in Malaysia are more likely to arrest asylum seekers than protect them.
So, they can just get picked up by the police and immigration anytime for them. Have you ever been to the jungles, being alone, trying to avoid from, the wild animals? Even at night, you can't sleep, and then, you're alone over there. You don't know when the snake will swallow you. This is the life of refugees and asylum seekers in Malaysia.
More than 190,000 refugees are registered with the UNHCR in Malaysia, and 88% of them come from Myanmar. Thousands more are waiting for asylum claims to be processed.
Everyone living in Malaysia, they are scared to be deported back to Myanmar. Yeah, because they fled, they feel unsafe in the country. They came to Malaysia, then you send them back. So of course they are scared of that. Refugees, everyone here, regardless of documentation, no one is safe.
Since the coup, thousands of people have fled Myanmar to seek asylum, including hundreds of military personnel who abandoned their posts. Many are now living in Malaysia, hiding anxiously as they wait for UNHCR to process them. We managed to speak to some former military officers who fled Myanmar after the coup. They told us the risks they face.
ဘယ်လောက်တိုင်းတာတဲ့အချိန်တိုင်းမှာအချိန်ကြီးပဲအခုချိန်မှာကျွန်တော် operation ပါသွားပါပြီ operation ပါသွားကျွန်တော်လက်ထဲမှာဘာထောက်ထားမှမရှိတဲ့အတွက်မြန်မာပြည်တေချာပေါက်ပြန်ပို့ခံရလိမ့်မယ်မြန်မာပြည်ပြန်ပို့ခံရရင်ကျွန်တော်လက်နက်ကိုင်ဝန်ထမ်းတွေမှာကဥပဒေကစီဒီအန်လောက်လာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်တေတံထိကြခံရနိုင်တယ်အဲ့ဒီအတွက်ကျွန်တော်တို့က UNHCR ရဲ့ကူညီမှုထောက်ပံ့ UNHCR ကပြဝရအောင်လိုအပ်ပါလို့ကျွန်တော်ပြောတာပါ
UNHCR-registered refugees have been recognised by the UN as people who had no choice but to flee their country and who cannot return safely. The UNHCR is mandated to protect them. But many people told us that in Malaysia, they have little power or influence.
Malaysia immigration ကအခုချိန်ထိ UNHCR ကို Malaysia မှာရှိနေတဲ့ camp တွေကိုဝင်ဖို့အတွက်ပိတ်ထားတာတစ်နှစ်လောက်ရှိပါပြီ
But the problem, like in Malaysia, the issue is UNHCR are not allowed to access detention center, but then embassy can access it. So you can see the difference. Even having UNHCR cards, it doesn't guarantee the safety. It doesn't protect from the Myanmar military in Malaysia.
In Malaysia, there are roughly 12,000 refugees, asylum seekers and migrants being held in 20 immigration detention centres across the country. In February 2021, just a few weeks after the coup in Myanmar, Malaysia handed over more than 1,000 Myanmar citizens, including refugees, to Myanmar's navy.
Assalamu alaikum. စိတ်မကောင်းစရာသတင်းတစ်ခုအတည်ပြုပေးဖို့ပါအခုပဲဒီမလေးရှားပေါ့နော်ဒီအစိုးရဌာနကနေပြီးတော့ကြော်ညာစာထုတ်ထားလိုက်ပါတယ်ဒီနေ့သင်္ဘောကထွက်သွားပြီပေါ့နော်လူဦးရေ1086ယောက်ကိုတင်ဆောင်သွားတယ်လို့သိရပါတယ်
The deportation came despite strong objection from human rights groups, and there had even been a court order to stop it.
There is an international law that says if a refugee who's being sent back, if there's a concern that he or she will be killed or persecuted or put in jail, you cannot send them back. And most of these guys are going to be in jail. They'll be killed when they go back on the other side. But the government of Malaysia still send them back.
Charles Santiago is a former MP and the co-chair of ASEAN Parliamentarians for Human Rights.
Dasar progresif Malaysia dan untuk menolong pelarian ini yang mendesak yang terpaksa lari daripada negara mereka oleh kerana nyawa mereka diancam. Terima kasih.
He is a long-time advocate for refugee rights in Malaysia.
So we always perceive refugees in a negative light as people who are dependent and have come to take advantage of jobs in this country. That's the perception that we have. I think the government has a role to do in changing that perception.
The thousands of Myanmar citizens deported from Malaysia have included registered refugees, military defectors, and other high-risk asylum seekers.
Hey, these are guys who are refugees, not because they want to, but because they've been forced out of their own country. I think we need to be compassionate, and these are the moments for that compassion to operate. Sending them back will lead them to their death.
Thuzar Maung and her entire family were all registered with UNHCR.
What is quite clear is that Thuzar was actually documented as a refugee, and that's the supreme irony for people who have been terrified and afraid because they're undocumented. How much more chilling is it that she was documented as a refugee and therefore should have been receiving the protections of the country.
But Malaysia is not a signatory to the UN Convention on Refugees and does not officially recognise UN refugee status.
So those who thought Malaysia was a safer place to be than Myanmar, being given the message that maybe it is not that much different. And I think that's also what the junta wants people to believe, that they are not safe wherever they may be because they are from Burma.
Malaysia has even been accused of cooperating with other nations to deport high-risk refugees unlawfully.
I told them that I'm a refugee, I have UNHCR card, and then they says we know.
This is Syed Fawad Ali Shah, a journalist and refugee from Pakistan. Press freedom groups say he was forcibly repatriated because of his journalism.
For them, UNHCR is not like imported, not like they don't give any importance to what is UNHCR?
In August 2022, he went missing from the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur, where he says he was blindfolded and abducted by plain-clothed Malaysian officials.
They catch me from petrol pump, like 6-7 people. Then they put some mask on my face like this, and then they handcuff my hand and then bring me to the immigration office. I was in cage, like one night I spent there. Then second day, they bring me to the airport.
He says before being put on a flight, he was drugged and handed over to Pakistani intelligence.
From airport, there have some Pakistani officials. They was like waiting for me, like 6-7 people. And then they bring me to the airplane.
For over 4 months, there was no trace of him.
They kidnapped me. They didn't register any case. They didn't bring me to the in front of judge, like they are going to deport me. Everything is behind the door they did. Everything was illegally.
Then in January 2024, the Malaysian Home Minister revealed Shah had been deported to Pakistan at the request of Pakistani authorities. So could this have been a similar operation? Malaysia has been openly critical of the Myanmar military since the coup, but Myanmar still has an embassy and a military attaché office in Malaysia.
Malaysians has maintained their diplomatic ties with Myanmar. Myanmar embassy is active, which means Myanmar military can come here anytime and then do whatever they want. So the people are still not safe here.
Myanmar is also known to have a military intelligence presence in Malaysia. Thuzar believed that there was a network of people spying on behalf of the Myanmar embassy. Before she disappeared, Thuzar had told friends she believed she was being followed.
She told me before that someone is following her, and so she have to be very careful about it.
We approached the Myanmar embassy in Kuala Lumpur several times, but they declined our requests for an interview. But those with inside knowledge of how the military works say it's very possible the military would target Thuzar Maung. In Malaysia, many of the Myanmar community are frightened to speak out about this issue. But after months of research, we found someone claiming to have inside information. This man believes the Myanmar and Malaysian authorities were working together. DVB has been unable to independently verify this information. We searched naval records and unsuccessfully requested flight manifestos and immigration records, but found no evidence that the family were taken back to Myanmar. Police have refused to give us any information on this case, but those who have spoken to them directly say there may be some clues as to what has happened.
The police told me that they found out her car. They found it in the border of Thailand and Malaysia.
DVB spoke to 3 people who all claim police told them that one of the family's cars, the Proton Saga, had been found in the border of Sungai Kelok, an area well known for people smuggling and trafficking. We were unable to confirm this with Ampang Jaya police, who did not respond when asked to verify this information. But if the family had really been taken back, surely someone in Burma would have heard something.
Hello?
We managed to speak to a close member of Thuzar Maung's family in Burma. For the family's safety, we have decided not to use the voice or details of the information they shared. But they did confirm to us that they have not heard anything from Thuzar Maung, her husband or children since the day they disappeared. They also told us that days after the disappearance, Burmese military intelligence came to question the family. And that Thuzar Maung had told them she feared for her life and believed she was being spied on by both Malaysian and Myanmar authorities. But why would the Malaysian authorities assist Burma in a forced repatriation? Aung has a theory. He says Thuzar Maung had been working with Malaysian intelligence. In October 2022, Reuters reported Malaysian authorities had arrested and deported 6 former Myanmar Navy officers. The news caused outrage, especially when it was learnt the officers had been arrested on arrival in Myanmar.
သူတို့တွေကိုလက်ရှိတန်လျင်မှာရှိနေတဲ့ရေတပ်ပေါ့နော်စစ်တပ်အကျဉ်းစခန်းမှာဖမ်းဆီးထားတယ်သူတို့အထဲထဲမှာလည်းတော်တော်လေးကိုနှိပ်စက်ခံရတယ်လို့အဲ့လိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့သတင်းထပ်ရတယ်
Thuzar Maung's organisation had allegedly been helping the officers with their asylum claim.
Malaysia ကဒီသတင်းတပ်ဖွဲ့ကသူ့ကိုဆက်သွယ်လာတယ်ဆက်သွယ်လာပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီလူတွေဖွက်ထားတဲ့နေရာကိုပြခိုင်းတယ် KL ကနေပြီးတော့ဂျိုဟိုးကိုအဲ့ဒီသတင်းတပ်ဖွဲ့ပိုင်နဲ့ရဟန့်ရင်လားတခြားရဟန့်ရင်လားတော့မသိဘူးရဟန့်ရင်လည်းပဲမလေးရှားနိုင်ငံပြည်ထဲရေးကသွားပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီအရာရှိ9ယောက်ကိုသွားပြီးထိန်းသိမ်းတယ်ပြီးတော့မြန်မာစစ်တပ်ဘက်ကိုလွှဲပြောင်းပေးလိုက်တယ်လို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ကြားတယ်ပေါ့အဲ့ဒါသူ့ရဲ့အဓိကသူ့ကိုတိုက်ကထားပြီးဖမ်းဆီးခြင်းနဲ့အဓိကအချက်လို့ထင်တယ်
After this alleged incident, Thuzar's fear seemed to increase. Thuzar Maung had told friends she was being followed by Malaysian special police.
They say special police or SP or something, and then warn her, you must leave the country. Myanmar military trying to take you down soon.
နေဗီကိစ္စပြီးရဲ့နောက်ပိုင်းမှာမလေးရှားမှာရှိတဲ့ဒီသတင်းရဲတပ်ဖွဲ့လည်းသူ့ကိုစောင့်ကြည့်နေတယ်
The Royal Malaysian Police declined to be interviewed for this documentary. They even, bizarrely, directed us to approach the Myanmar embassy for information about this case, the very institution suspected of being involved in the disappearance. Then in September 2023, the police finally broke their silence on the case. They told the media that evidence indicated the family had left home voluntarily, and there was no sign they had been kidnapped. So why does it appear the police are keeping information hidden? Unsatisfied with the lack of progress in the investigation, James took his concerns to the Malaysian Home Affairs Ministry.
He promised us that he will come back to us as soon as possible with the information, but then he never responded. But till today, we haven't got any information on this issue.
Clearly, the government is not taking it seriously. And there was no sense of an accountability on the part of government, especially the enforcement authorities, on exactly what is transpiring.
We reached out to both the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the Home Affairs Ministry in Malaysia for interviews, but they did not respond. But DVB managed to acquire a leaked report that gives an insight into the government's position. This is an official government response to a joint urgent appeal sent by 3 UN officers. It says police found no signs of a struggle or forced entry at the house. The report also claims that Thuzar Maung had left 2 previous apartments without informing or without paying the house owners, implying the family may have completely disappeared, abandoned their belongings, cut off contact with all friends and family, just to avoid paying rent. The theories don't quite seem to add up.
Malaysian authorities look bad in this case. Did they cooperate? Did they tacitly allow this to happen? Or they just don't want to investigate? The less we know about what happened makes us speculate even more about who could have been involved.
Why was she abducted? Was the Malaysian government involved together with the Myanmar government on this? Was this an exchange of prisoners?
In July 2023, 3 days after Thuzar Maung and her family disappeared, a high-profile Malaysian fugitive called Jasmine Liu was brought back to Malaysia after 5 years on the run. Liu was allegedly involved in the 1MDB financial scandal that saw more than $4 billion embezzled from Malaysia's development fund. According to reports, she had been hiding in Myanmar when she decided to negotiate her return to Malaysia. She spent 2 months in the Malaysian embassy in Yangon while Malaysian and Myanmar authorities negotiated a covert cross-border operation. There is no proof that these cases are connected, but they demonstrate a dialogue between Malaysian and Myanmar authorities during the period when Thuzar Maung and her family disappeared. And if Malaysia had offered Myanmar an exchange, is there anyone else who might fit the profile?
There's no one in Malaysia that could be that public. I think she's very few one in Malaysia who has a significant presence on offline and online.
But although Thuzar Maung may seem an obvious target for the Burmese military, Ong Jor Mo says he does not believe that Malaysia would assist the junta in a forced repatriation like this.
But one thing to keep in mind is Malaysia is one of the very few countries in ASEAN that has been firmly standing with the democratization process in Myanmar and supporting us. So I don't think that Malaysia could be involved in such cases.
So what could have happened to them? On October 6th, 2023, rumours that Thuzar Maung had been killed started to appear online, and word amongst the Myanmar community in Malaysia was the same. The Assistance Association for Political Prisoners says that since the military coup, more than 1,850 people have died in junta custody, and many believe the family have been killed in interrogation.
So we don't know what happened to her. The unconfirmed report was that she died. She was basically killed in an interrogation center. What happens at these interrogation centers in Burma? The torture, the sexual assault, and the rate of murder is extremely high. But what's also concerning is that we haven't heard from her husband and children. If they survived, they would have sought help.
And the family in Myanmar seem to think the same. They say if they were still alive, one of them would have found a way to reach out to them. Whatever may have happened to the family, their disappearance has had an impact.
It was very shocking for all Myanmar community in Malaysia because it proved that no one is safe here in Malaysia.
But authorities in the region can still learn from their disappearance.
If the military junta gets away with this, they will do much worse in this region. Although we may never know what happened to Thuzar, it's a wake-up call to this region that our governments need to take clear action to protect people in their territory from such serious human rights violations.
For those who knew her best, they can only hope that one day they will know the truth.